What would you?
Mark Ruffalo.
Mark Ruffalo. Yes.
Seb. Yes. Because he's
Yeah.
sensitive. Ooh, Patrick Dempsey is cute. Cute as he can get out.
Okay, we've gone down a rabbit hole.
I don't care. I'm in it.
Hey friends, it's Amy. Welcome to my bookish life. Today I am joined by Destiny.
Hi.
And we are here today talking about one of our buddy reads. We're going to talk about some books that we have been reading recently, chat together, and then we are going to talk specifically about Weather Girl by Rachel Lynn Solomon, which is our latest buddy read. We usually do like a buddy read a month, and we thought it would be really cool if we
talked about it with you guys.
About it on the YouTubes. So yeah, we just read Weather Girl, and we decided to record our conversation for anyone that would like to join in with the discussion. So if you have read Weather Girl, you would want to stay through the whole thing because there will be some spoilers, but you've already read them. If you have not, we'll put a spoiler banner up when we're going to talk about spoilers. So if you just want to stay until we are done summarizing and talking up this book, because spoiler alert, we both loved it. Then go ahead and check out when that happens. And otherwise, it's up to you. Leave us a comment down below if you have read or would love to read Weather Girl, because we'd love to hear that as well. Destiny is currently not on YouTube. She is on Instagram, but her information is going to be down in the description below. So, Destiny, what are you reading now?
Right now, I am currently digging into Everblaze by Shannon Messenger, and it is number 3 of the Keeper of the Lost Cities trilogy, and I'm really liking it. Sophie is still continuing on her adventure in this new world and deciding who to trust, who to not trust, what's going on, and there is just suspicion and characters and a little bit of drama and angst, and it's just, I'm really liking it so far. I just needed to have that push to continue because they're kind of chunky books. And when you have a lot to read, you're kind of like bouncing around. So, but I'm loving it so far. What are you reading? What are you currently in?
So today I just finished If the Shoe Fits by Julie Murphy, and it's the first book in the Meant to Be series. So like a couple months back, I read By the Book by Jasmine Guillory, which is a Beauty and the Beast retelling set in the modern world. And I absolutely loved it. Like 5 stars, like give it me more, right? Realized that it was number 2 in the series, but they're all like individual stories. So they are not connected at all. So I went back and I read the first book, which is If the Shoe Fits by Julie Murphy. And this is a Cinderella retelling, and it has a reality TV show. So we have a plus-sized contestant on the reality TV show, and I just loved it. I loved it a lot. I love retellings no matter what. So this one was just absolutely for me. And then I just started today The Measure by Nikki Erlick. And that's where like everybody in the entire world gets a box that has a string in it, and it shows the measure of their life.
Okay. Interesting concept.
Yeah. Like I'm literally like 10 pages in, so
don't have a lot of info.
No opinion so far, but there's a lot of really great description in it. So yeah. But let's talk about Weather Girl.
Okay.
So Weather Girl is by Rachel Lynn Solomon. I got mine from the library. You owned it.
Yes.
So it's about Ari Abrams, and she is the weather girl. She's like the backup weather girl. She's not the head weather girl. She's a weather girl at this news station, and she is working under Torrance Hale. Torrance is the main meteorologist, and she is actually working under her ex-husband. It's a very weird
like
dynamic,
a great time,
right? Like everybody in the office is like miserable because these two keep bickering about everything. And after a particularly bad holiday party, Ari and Russell, who is a sports reporter, decide to parent trap.
Do something about it because they love their jobs. They just don't really love their workplace.
Right.
So why not? I mean, let's try to parent trap them, rekindle something, because they obviously have noticed, you know, in the calm times where the tides aren't, you know, drowning them in the, you know, currents, that it is calm, that it is polite, that it is kind of easygoing. And they, you know, they both have connections to the news station. They like their job.
Yeah. And Ari's hoping like that she's going to, if her boss was happier and not always worried about bickering with her ex-husband, that she would get more of a mentorship situation and she would be able to learn more about how to do her job better, which I think is really important to know too there. So it is blurbed as cozy, comforting, and thought-provoking by Jasmine Gilroy, who is one of the authors I just read from. Tender, hilarious, and heartfelt love story by Telsha Bailey, and perfect for rainy days and sunny days, and everything in between by Helen Hoang. This is a spicy romance, spicy rom-com. Like it's definitely open door. So definitely not
the whole book though.
Not the whole book.
Towards the end, it's a nice little build up.
So it's definitely something you want to be prepared for going in.
I think you summed it up pretty well.
One of the best, like just to start out, she's like looking at this new billboard that came out with her brother.
It's such an achievement too to be like on a billboard, not just to be like work trip and just, you know, like behind the scenes. You're like now like I would say like the second string to the main event, right? You're now on the team, the weather team. It's great.
Yeah.
Go on. Sorry.
Yeah. Oh, but her face is like on this billboard and she's like, oh my gosh, this is so great. And she's looking at it and there's a big old big old spot of bird poop on her face only.
Yeah. She takes her brother out there to show him because she's so proud of this. Yeah. And then they end up still taking photos, which I think is hilarious. And he literally has the best relationship with her because he continues to make like puns about the bird poop and her and like weather. It's great.
Yeah. This is an unmistakable whitish gray streaked across my smiling face, blotting out my left eye, half my nose, and ending in a beautiful bird poop dimple. My face only.
Well, hopefully it, you know, rains and just washes that away for her.
It's just got a whole bunch of one-liners that are just really cute and funny. Like I found myself laughing so often.
It was definitely relatable too. It was like relatable humor. It wasn't, you know, just
Yeah. And I love how the first, like every chapter starts
has a forecast.
Because she's the weather girl, and it's like forecast cloudy with a chance of public humiliation. And they're all like, you don't want to miss reading those chapter titles, right? Because they're like, you're going to miss this gem of funny. Yeah. As you're doing it.
And it kind of gives you like a preview of what the chapter is going to be kind of about. I started to catch on to it, and I like would really get excited for the next chapter. So you could see kind of what their little snippet underneath the little cloud and the little precipitation would be.
Yeah. I think it's very insightful in terms of how it is humorous. But what I really love about Ari, and is really relatable to me, is her anxiety. And hers is a little bit deeper than mine. Hers dwells more into depression and perhaps bipolar. Way that Ari handles that mental health, her mental health situation, and how she works on getting better is beautiful in this book. And it's really good to see that, because as you may know, I've wanted to throw books against the wall for insinuating just, find a guy, fall in love, and everything will be great and you won't be depressed anymore. That's not how depression works. And like, this definitely doesn't just sweep that under the rug. So.
I agree with you. I loved the fact that she was a flawed character. She was imperfect, but it continued in the story, and she did grow as a character, and she did have a solid support team that, allowed her that space. And, she was able to, I feel like, develop, and you just got more and more of it during the whole story. You got to see different varieties of it, and it was a lovely, realistic picture of the whole topic, I feel like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because she was never like, I'm dealing with this and now it's perfect. It was always, I'm dealing with this and I'm going to take some steps backwards, because that's how mental health works. Like, it really is. And just needing that support system is really important. So I really appreciated that part of it as well. And Russell, our love interest, because this is a rom-com, like, she's going to hatch a plan with this coworker, and he's going to end up, like, this is not a spoiler, right? Okay.
Yes.
Like, we know Russell and Ari are endgame here.
I mean,
but he comes with his own set of insecurities, and he is not by any means a perfect hero in terms of like a romance genre, but he is a perfect example of what wouldn't be a wonderful hero,
Well, and a counterpart to her. He is definitely like, them together makes sense with them not being together. Like, they are endgame. They are both flawed in each other's ways, but I feel like throughout the story, you get kind of how they work, how their friendship is, how, it turns, and how they support each other. I know that might be a little bit of a spoiler, but just their support is not something that I don't think either of them have had in past relationships. And I think that's why we're like, finally they got together. Finally they understood, like, took the blinders off and like noticed that this was their end game, I feel like.
Yeah. So yeah, I
was rooting for them more than their little plan. I was like,
right?
Who cares if your plan doesn't work? You guys have to be together. You have to be together.
Right. Yeah. They were so easy to root for. It was, it was just so easy to root for them.
And his nickname for her, I like, literally melts my little heart, like, every time. And he wouldn't use it all the time, only in certain moments. And I loved it. It was Weather Girl, by the way. I thought that was so cute.
Weather Girl.
I mean, she knows what she's doing, this little author. She like ties it. It was a very cohesive piece of artwork, and I loved it.
It was very cohesive, very much so. So I'm going to put the spoilers up for the reading group questions. We're going to go through some of them. Just, if just as a little precaution. Yeah.
Get your weather boots on. It's about to get wet.
All right. So it says, did you have any preconceived notions of a TV meteorologist's job in this? I feel like in media, a lot of times they picture weather girls as like not needing any kind of training. Do you know what I mean? Like whereas like
yeah,
obviously
kind of like you go there, I would, maybe I'm wrong, but what you're saying is like you would kind of just read from a script that maybe if you study journalism, it would be easy to kind of be on screen and kind of facilitate. I just don't know. I think weather is so like it changes by the minute. It's
right.
sometimes unpredictable. And I know that they have to like study maps and, weather.
Right.
And I don't know too
like,
much.
I mean, meteorologists are legit scientists, and like a weather girl is also like,
Oh,
I mean,
100%.
she is a meteorologist. Like, I mean, we didn't really talk about the STEM kind of element to this book, but it's really there. She talks a lot about science and the science of not to an extent that it would be like
a little
much, but like she definitely talks about how important meteorology is in her life kind of thing. But I think in like media, like if you think of like Young Sheldon, the TV show, right? Georgie's girlfriend is a weather girl, but she's not like she's not a meteorologist. She's just a weather girl, you know, kind of thing.
I feel like sometimes they downcast it because I definitely think that when everyone has their career path or their job, like I think it's easy for be like, oh, that's an easy job to do. And it's just like, well, it's really not. Not only does she have like a rigid like sleep schedule, awake schedule. I couldn't even imagine waking up and putting on makeup at 2 a.m. to get, and there's holidays. That's just some of them.
And her EJ was going to bed at 2 a.m.
Yeah, like that's just some of the like examples. I mean, we don't know the half of it because we're not, in that field, but I definitely think it takes more. I mean, this, being comfortable in front of a camera and understanding like just different cues, facial expressions, tones of voice. I mean, so much goes into it, just speaking, let alone the actual science behind it. Yes, you have a team, but you as the weather girl on TV are the spokesperson for that whole entire team. So it's kind of like a team effort, a team effort. It's not just Ari looking up what to do today, be like, oh, Google says it's going to be sunny and 78. Let me just go on TV and just be like, it's going to be 70 and Sunday, 78 and sunny. Have a great day. No, like she has so much more that goes into it. But I just think you and I are definitely open-minded to knowing that like there's more to it than just that one little tidbit you get to see.
Right. And I think, there's also that misconception that meteorologists don't care when they're wrong. But I think there's definitely a guilt that goes with that. I don't know.
I definitely think they feel bad when they're wrong because especially in today's like age, people get so sassy about it like online. That they probably, I would avoid it if I were them. I would just avoid the whole thing. People just get so sassy and I'm like, calm down. Like, it's fine. Like, it'll be fine.
Yeah. Were Ari and Russell wrong to manipulate Torrance and Seth? So like some things they recreated Torrance and Seth as the ex-husband. We never said his name. But so they recreated their first date. They found out that Torrance loves swing dancing. So they arranged a swing dancing event for everybody on staff. And they just kind of like talked the other one up to their bosses.
They took like a thank you dinner and replicated it to their like first anniversary or their first date menu. They bought a succulent for one, like a little tiny, just trying to get, I don't think because A, I think it was in good nature. And B, I think it wasn't like, oh, I heard him say this. Like they let Torrance and Seth talk for themselves when those times came. But I think they highlighted the good moments because both of those people did have doubts because eventually, they figured out what they wanted to do. but I think they just highlighted it. Sometimes you need it, like, sometimes you just
Well,
need that
because
little nudge.
at no point was it
Malicious, negative.
Torrance.
Yeah.
Guess what I heard Seth say about you? Like it was never.
No, it wasn't a
anything
cat
that
and
was
mouse conniving type of game. It was literally in good nature, and it was, I think whatever outcome would have happened, that these little moments wouldn't have like been a detriment to them and their lifestyles. Like, if it wasn't negative, it wasn't malicious, it wasn't
Yeah.
like
Like
that
they were
at
put
all.
into this situation,
Mhm.
but they could do it with it what they wanted.
They could have left. They could have
Yeah.
not shown up. I mean, they had a lot of, um, I would say, not responsibility, but they had a lot of, what's the word I'm looking for?
I don't know.
I think they had a lot of choice. There you go. I
Yes.
think Seth and Torrance had a lot
Okay.
of choice, and they were leading their decisions. It
Yeah.
wasn't like this decision was made for them.
Right. Yeah.
They were able to decide with a little bit of just some nudging, some suggestions. There you go. They were suggesting.
So then the next part of that question is, did they ever cross the line? And I think we already covered that. Like they didn't really cross any lines there. Right?
No, because
Like
they didn't
Ari and
even
Russell.
lie, because they were
Yeah.
not even asked if they were doing anything. Like, literally, it would just be, for example, if like you were to want to set up a friend with someone you think they would go well with together, or maybe a lost connection that, you see them just organically at a work party and you're like, they look like they would do really well back together. Like, they're not negative people, they're not toxic people. Maybe it was just right person, wrong time. And you're seeing these kind of signals, and you see them when they work really well. And when they not together, they're horrible. So why not make it better for everyone, and and the work environment, and try to parent trap them, see what happens.
Right. And I don't think they ever really crossed a line where it would be like, would they never lied, like, yeah.
No, there was no, I feel like the only thing that was deceptive, that you could say was deceptive, is that they had an ulterior motive. But again, it was of a good-natured motive.
Right.
It wasn't like, I'm going to make them fall in love and then I'm going to like drop a bomb of some sort.
Yeah.
I just, yeah.
Yeah. And so really what ultimately brings them together is the fact that their son's wife is having a baby.
No. Little Penny.
Yeah. So like, I mean, it wasn't really even anything that they did.
No, I think they cushioned it. They cushioned the environment.
I think it laid foundations that made it easy for them to actually be able to be there for their son.
Exactly.
And I think that was really great. Like how it whether it was,
because they never decided, or they never really, I feel like that was, the icing on the cake for them. Like they were making all the ingredients, they were building the house, but they needed that roof. And I feel like that was the final and probably one of the most important things.
I think if Ari and Russell hadn't been doing what they were doing, trying to put them in situations to help them remember what it was that they loved about each other, and having those conversations where they were talking about what they loved about each other, I think that I think it would have been really hard for them to both be in that waiting room when the time actually came.
Well, and I definitely think the little gifts along the way, the little sweetening up of their relationship, they did have lingering thoughts, as one does when you decide to break up. And I think it kind of like jolted them into the highlights of their relationship, and to be like, I mean, spoilery, but Seth definitely had lingering thoughts about what he could do wrong. And, he said, I'm not the same person as I was when we broke up. And I do see what, I did wrong. And he still cared for her, and she wasn't closed door. She still had some lingering feelings eventually when you found out. So I definitely think that it did work up to be this nice little ending for them, and they have a grandbaby, and their only son gave them their first grandchild. And I think that's a lot of emotions. She has a granddaughter now. She doesn't have a grandson. So now she has that little girl, and she can buy little girl things, and she could be a grandma. And like, they did this together. And I would assume when you're in the waiting room being a grandparent, you're reliving becoming a parent, but it's just like extra special because now you just get all the like good parts of it now.
Yeah. I remember when my nephews were born, and when my first nephew was born, we were at the campground, and my dad has like one of those like cherries that goes on the top like of golf carts that light up and whatever. So when we got the call that my nephew was born, we got on his golf cart and we drove around the campground with the cherry going full blast.
That's cute because they would know she was expecting, and it's kind of
so
like a
everybody
little village.
knew that they were expecting, like they had a seasonal site there, so everybody knew my sister was expecting. Everybody knew that
it was happening. She's had the baby.
Yeah, so we had to do that, and then we could get in our car and we could get in the car and go to the hospital. Like I just happened to be in town that weekend that he was.
Oh, that's perfect.
Yeah. But it was just like imagining like if my parents, my parents are not divorced, but if my parents were divorced, like becoming grandparents brought them together even more as a couple. And I think becoming grandparents, even as a divorced couple, brings you back together.
Yeah.
At least to have an amicable relationship, if nothing else. That's the hope, right? Like that.
Because y'all are stuck together.
Yeah, like you both want to be at this kid's birthday party, and hopefully this kid's not going to have 4 birthday parties because all their grandparents are divorced, So I don't know. Like I think that was a really cool representation of how a family can look brought together, especially in parallel to Russell being he is a single dad in the book, and he has a 12-year-old daughter, and Russell gets along very well with his ex, and they have actually a very great relationship, and he gets along really well with her new husband as well. So like it's a great depiction of what that
blended family
like.
And when it works well. And I think when you take out, this is just my unbiased opinion, but when you take out all that anger and and you literally just put the children first and what's best for the children, and it works out. When it works, and you just need to find your rhythm. And I feel like Russell finds it with his did they get married? I don't think they got married, but
I don't think they ever were married.
No, his mother of his child. I definitely think they found a rhythm, and I know that it's probably not. He says he's comfortable with the new husband, her husband. So I think whatever works best for his child. I think that's what he kind of said, and I think that's I'm thinking that Seth and Torrance, if they bickered at work, they probably bickered at home a lot too. And maybe they didn't have, like joint Christmases. So I think this will be even better if it works, if they can grow and move on and they can be one solid family, whether apart or, together. I think it's a great depiction of different dynamics in the book. Like sometimes they work and get back together, and sometimes they're a great blended family. But at the end of the day, it's still family, and you're still together and figuring it out.
And I think it's a ton of work. Like it's a ton of work to get along with somebody in that dynamic, but it's such a positive thing when it can happen. So, yeah. How would this book be different if it was from Russell's point of view?
Well,
because it's from Ari's point of view, we see a lot of how the situation is affecting her mental health.
Yes.
Okay. So, but Russell would be, I think, a different story.
I think that Russell's would be more of a story about attraction to Ari and his kind of thought process around it. I don't think it would be a big point in the book of discussion of depression, like you said, of maybe some bipolar. And I don't think you would get the dynamic, and we didn't even talk about it, the dynamic of Ari's family and what that kind of looks like and kind of what those lessons you get from the book. So I think it would be an interesting perspective. I definitely think she chose the right character, unless he was going through something, but then it wouldn't be called Weather Girl. It would be called Sports Boy. And that doesn't ring.
Yeah.
I love him, but he's a great he's a great co-pilot to this journey.
And he has his own insecurities. Like he is very insecure about his weight. And he's very insecure about how young he was when he had his daughter.
Exactly.
And so what I would like though is that we would get more of Elodie, which is his daughter. Like she was such a fun character. I just loved her. Like she was so she was just so fun and bright and peppy, and like she's a great character. So I think we would have gotten more of her, and I think that would have been cool. But I really think that it was chosen well to be from Ari's point of view.
Yeah.
Because we would have seen his insecurities about his weight, but definitely not to the extent that Ari's insecurities.
I think like Ari's insecurities and her bouts of her, like, as she called it, like, you know, would she say bad weather?
Bad days.
And how she like described it as like stormy and like dark, you know, and it just really fits in with the theme of the book, because the theme of the book is about weather, and it is consistent from page 1 to page whatever the last page was. And it wasn't like it was shoved down your throat. It just made sense. And it was so relating back to, you know, Weather Girl being the nickname, and like she had on her attire was like, you know, she had like clouds on her cardigan, but it wasn't like obnoxious. It was just, it fit and it made sense. And it made sense about, you know, how they brought up the, you know, depression, how they brought up, you know, the relationship between her and her mom, which I feel like was a huge component to the book, and her relationship with, you know, her and her dad, and that kind of little tidbit of that beginning of that story, which, you know, we talked about. Like, I feel like that was a huge foundation point for her when she thought about her depression, was she always went back to that comment her dad made to her mom, you know?
So I don't think we weren't recording when we talked about that comment.
Yeah.
So her dad made a comment to her mom once, to the effect of, you are never happy and you're never yourself, and I can't handle you when you're like this. He said that right before he left and he was out of her life. So Ari deals with her depression in a way that nobody will be able to love me because my dad couldn't love my mom.
Yep. She puts that mask on, she puts that smile on, and she's like, you're not getting past this exterior, because what I notice, and, you know, from relationships that haven't worked out for her, is that you guys don't accept me for my sunshine, you know, for my, you know, I don't let you in, and somehow you still leave. And if I let you and you're going to leave him, it's like she thinks it's like emotional baggage that if she tells people she's in therapy, or if she tells people she's medicated, or she's trying to work on herself, that they're going to leave. Like, it's too much, because it was too much for, like, that memory is like, he left and he never came back. He never came back for the kids, for us, and I think that, stems from her, everything about her thought about depression stems back to that one core memory, to that one core moment. And I think that it's definitely something that I feel like personally needs to get reprogrammed, because it's okay to not be okay. And I
Right.
feel like that is a message that you eventually do get in the book.
Yeah. Ari and Torrance have conversations about Seth to like get Torrance, and Russell and Seth have conversations about Torrance to get, whatever. So Ari and Torrance get really close. And have a lot of discussions, and they talk about misogyny within the industry, sexism and misogyny, and how like they're expected to be this one way because they're women, and things like that. And so the question is, why do you think people are able to get away with treating women this way in the industry?
Okay, good question. I definitely think it stems from a lot, but I'm going to shape it up really quickly. I'm not going to get on a soapbox. I definitely think it stems from just what we have seen generation to generation, what we were introduced as what a normal type of order of events of what duties a man gets and what duties a woman gets. And I think that when wars happen and women have to step up because the husbands are gone, I think that the ladies get a sense of independence, and they get a sense of just like, you can do this. Whereas, not like you don't need a man, because men are nice, they're great. But I definitely think that when women can do some tasks better, and when they can be more efficient or more time, there's something people in general, women do things better than men, vice versa, or men can do things better. I think it's person to person. And I definitely think that when it comes down to it, if you're better for the job, it shouldn't matter if you're a man or a woman. And I think that's hard to understand and to understand and to agree with. I think that just in the industry, men are often seemed to be more aggressive than women. But when a woman is aggressive, it's taken and titled a different way. But you're still just as work driven. So what's the difference if one point A or person A and person B do it when they're still going for the same goal? And what happens when the better person is not what maybe you had thought it would be?
Right. And I think especially when it comes to like being on TV, I think there's different standards for men and women on what is looking good.
Definitely.
So like when there's that different standard, it's like, well, this is in the name of what's expected of women to look like on TV.
Like, like guys can
like age. It has to be like that. And like, guys can age and they're all distinguished looking,
Why can't everyone just have a Jane Fonda attitude and just like give the break to everybody?
Yeah, but that's why they get away with the misogyny, though, is because of that. Like it's all in the name of looking good on TV. The next question is, how does Ari's mental health journey compare to other depictions of mental health you've read in books or seen on TV or in the movies?
I think this was so beautifully written. It was like,
I think so too.
It was definitely, there were many layers. It wasn't like, oh, this is a quick fix. This is what I have to do. It wasn't like that she was flawed. I liked the fact that she, yes, she was going to therapy sometimes. I like the fact that she wasn't didn't have it all together all the time. I like the fact that you saw that she had bad days. I like the fact that you saw, just the up and down, the ebbs and flows of what that type of like depression, because not all depressions look the same. And you might be, able to function, or you might not be able to get out of bed. Like there's just so much about it that we still don't know about, that I just love that you get such perspective about just her personal journey. And and then you also get her mom's take, which is completely different, but it does say that her mom has, obviously has depression. And it's just like her mom couldn't get off the couch. Her mom had just this like negative, not negative, but just this dark cloud over her, that she only had spots of this like little bit of like bursts of energy that I think would take everything out of, which they had great memories about when those good times were happening, but it wasn't consistent, and it wasn't something that you could survive on. It just meant just being as a person, a functioning person. Whereas like Ari had, the career she had, she would go to work, she would call off here and there, but like her job was consistent. She was trying to function, within her space. And I think that it was just, yeah, like what you said, it was just wonderful to like.
Well, I think her job in a lot of ways was part of what helped her stay stable.
Yeah.
In her thoughts and in her emotions. And so like in a way it was almost like, I mean, she was medicated, but it was almost like another medication to her, that job, having that job, like it just kept her stable and kept her on. And so when it was really miserable at work, it was really difficult for her to function and things like that. And in terms of like what I've seen in other, like I said at the beginning, like, there was a book that I read last year that I wanted to throw against the wall, and was very triggering to me, because everybody around this woman who was paranoid about people gossiping about her. She was in a car accident. She was too scared to get into a car for a while. She had abandonment issues and depression, and she had so many mental health difficulties. I don't want to necessarily say issues, because they weren't all like bad, but
but she had a lot of layers to work through. There were a lot of layers to understand.
And the message that she kept on hearing was, well, if you would just find a guy, if you would just date this guy, like you'll just feel better. Honestly, I gave the book 4 stars. I really loved it, but I hated that part of it. I hated that kind of message that like
you need to save yourself before someone can save you. It's natural for people to disagree. It's natural to love your individual, your spouse, your significant other. You can love them dearly. I mean, love them to your core, okay? But you don't like them every single day, okay? Not every single day. Sometimes they get on your nerves and you love them, but sometimes you just need a little bit of space. But when you're depending on them for your mental stability, and they're starting to, I feel like that would cause friction. That would like fry some wires in your brain, and that would like send you down a rabbit hole that now you're expecting them to change and to get you out of the hole.
I mean, it's true, but like in terms of like the depictions of mental health, like it definitely was, I thought, very authentic, very real. Like there were times when what Ari did bugged me, but it was still authentic to her character and her situation and her mental health. And you could see it easily that it was authentic and it felt authentic. So,
and I love that she wasn't fixed at the end of the book. She was accepted, understanding. She opened up and had a really great, genuine support.
It was a good book.
Yeah, I loved it.
It was a good book. I gave it 4.5 stars. There was some stuff that bothered me.
Let me double check. Okay.
And I can't even put my finger on it. Like I don't know. Like I wrote 4.5 stars in my journal. And what?
Well, I just checked my Goodreads because I was like, I know I rated it high, and I was like, I rated it 5 stars, and I'm not cheap with my 5 stars. Okay,
No,
I like,
we're not.
I just, some things I really liked it. I liked the story. I liked the theme. The things that did irk me a little bit didn't overcast what was going on in the book. I like the story. I like the little snippets. I liked the adventures that they went on to scheme to like get them together. I liked every part of it. And it's just like I kind of wanted more of, I love when a book makes you wanting more, makes you, wanting more. I wanted more of Elodie. I wanted more of Elodie and Russell. I wanted more of I forgot her brother's name now.
Alex.
I wanted more of her and Alex's relationship. It was great. I mean, the mom had just amount. I liked it. I liked that story, and that can, kind of wrapping up type of situation. I kind of wish I got more of Torrance and Seth, like of their actual date, a little bit of their perspective. But with that being
It would
said,
be interesting to see what happened between Torrance and Seth when Ari wasn't there, because it was first person Ari. So like,
yes, I did like that. I liked, because the stuff that we got from Seth, he seems like a hoot and a half, because especially when he like jabs Torrance about her like selection of like, because obviously they're divorced, and she's gone on dates. Well, when they're together, one of her dates runs into them, and of course he says hello. She says hello, very polite, and Seth knows what's up. He's looking at this guy, he's looking at her, because they're like, I didn't know you would be here. And she's like, I told you about it. And it was, you can get this vibe off them.
Yeah,
right?
he's like, I'm the one that suggested this restaurant.
He leaves, and we're nervous now that he's gonna flip a table, he's gonna be mad, he's gonna storm off, but he literally goes with it, and he's like, I knew you could always do better than me, or pick better, or whatever it was. And I was like, I love that he was so confident in that, like, this is where we're at right now. And I know that you had a life, but after our divorce, but before this moment. And I love that he lets her have that and accepts it and doesn't hold it over her. It shows really great, I guess, growth for him versus what we kind of figured out about his insecurities.
I just thought that was going to be a bigger thing, because there was like a couple chapters before that where they're at the restaurant.
Yeah, and she runs into this guy
with somebody else, and I was like, that was a letdown for me. That didn't come out to be
in a different relationship.
More like, I was like, why are you even bringing this up?
It was a little
like, this scene wasn't necessary for her to be like, are you seeing other people? And Torrance could be like, yeah, I've seen other people, but nothing serious. Like we didn't actually need to see that.
They could have cut out the restaurant scene. I feel like you said, that was, again, it's great if it's in there. It's great if it's not. I'm not gonna.
No, I want the scene where the guy comes up like that.
Yes, but I didn't need to know he was the same guy. Yeah, I didn't need to know I didn't need the restaurant scene. The date, running in on the date scene.
Right. Because Ari didn't need to know, like, Ari being aware that this was somebody that she had dated wasn't necessary to the.
Yeah, I felt like it was a little redundant. Like, this guy is popping up again. Like, can we just get him away?
Like, it was enough that Seth figured out that this was a guy that she dated, and she didn't hide it, and it wasn't hidden, and it wasn't like, so it was just like, it just felt like an unnecessary thing.
I agree. With all that, like, I still really enjoyed the book.
I still really loved it. Like I said, like, I know, like, Goodreads doesn't do half stars, but like, I put 4 stars. Like, in my journal, I put 4.5. Like, I still loved it.
I gave it 5. Because I would read a sequel. I still want to know what's happening with these people. I want to know, like, if so-and-so gets married, or if, like.
I would watch this movie.
Oh, yes.
Like, I would watch this movie in a second.
Okay, so question then. Who would you cast? Who would you want to cast as the cast, like, of Russell? Let's just do Russell, Ari, Torrance, and what's his name?
Seth.
Seth.
So Torrance, I would do Jennifer Aniston. Ari, I would do Ellie Kemper.
Okay.
Russell, I would do Seth. I would do Rob Lowe.
Okay.
Yeah, and Russell, I would do. Kevin James.
Yes. So, but he has to be a little younger though. So would it be like young Kevin James then? He has to be a little younger.
Oh, yeah, Kevin James would be a little too old.
And it's not a negative thing, but in the
actually,
book,
Ellie Kemper might be getting a little too old too.
They say in the book they're a little younger. That's
they're like 30.
That's the only thing. Yeah. So I think because they did say he was a husky, lovable type of guy, Russ, right? So obviously he would be a little bit more heavier set, not heavier set, but not as like fit as he usually is. I think the great person for Russ would be Chris Pratt. When he first started off and he was in Parks and Rec, like season 1, he wasn't as like Hollywood-esque yet. And he was super funny and he had like this great rapport. I feel like him. Sandra Bullock, I like her too. But as like The Blind Side with her blonde hair, and I feel like she was very poised and put together and very just like zingy during then. I'm trying to think who else.
Ooh, the guy that plays Isaac in Ted Lasso would be
okay.
But I don't know what his name is.
Can we throw Gerard Butler in there? Can we try to make him fit somewhere? He can be Seth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, but he's not like he's huskier, but like.
Oh yeah, yes.
No, like I don't see him being self-conscious about his weight though. But you know who would be good? Halle Bailey, the Little Mermaid. Yes. She would be great for Ari.
Yes.
Just because she's a good actress.
I loved it. I did. I
really liked it.
I did.
Yeah.
Even so much I want to go back and like highlight stuff. And that's where I'm like, this is a 5-star because I definitely can't wait to hear everyone else's opinions about it.
Yeah.
She wasn't too ranty. She wasn't too whiny. She didn't come across like that. She just come across as somebody I would probably want to be friends with.
That's all we have for you for today.
Yeah, I hope you liked our discussion. I hope you liked our like duo buddy read book club chat. We have a good time reading together, and this is funny. Like we need to like let people in on this.
We're hoping to do more of these in the future and maybe give a little bit more of notice of what we're going to read, and then like I'll put it up in my channel what Desi and I are going to be reading, and then you'll have a heads up before we put up the discussion. I hope you're finding something wonderful to read, and until next time, happy reading. Bye.
Bye.
Through the whole, I just flew into my window.
Did you see my face? Get really cool.
I hope that you're having a wonderful day. And nope, that's not what I usually say. What do I usually say? Oh, yeah.